So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, you see how this one was made. This is white pine, just like in the interior drawers of the compartment. And this is done with a beveling of very thick wood. And this is a classic example when the joiners and cabinet makers came from the continent, from England. They were astounded at the amount of wood we had. In England, they would make 4 desks out of what's here. But they were just giddy with the amount of wood they had. And so they were not afraid to use almost a good solid inch in this bottom board. So that was what happened. And so this drawer is actually very heavy.
Because there is something about this, the feet on this desk that is quite interesting. And that's the cabinet maker in some of these more rural areas. We see this up north in New Hampshire, sometimes in the Connecticut River Valley. What they would use is to support the desk. The sides of the case actually go all the way down to the floor. And so the feet are applied to the sides of the case in the front, but actually most of the weight is supported by this single large board on the side of the drawer. And it's really a great piece of engineering that these cabinet makers use. Here's a view again of that really thick bottom board, really thick drawer sides. And he was a conscientious cabinet maker, put a little bit of a roundness on the side here, on the drawer sides, just to make it a little bit more decorative, make it run a little bit easier.
Most times the cabinet makers use chalk to do their markings. And this is classic 18th century writings from the original cabinet maker. And if you want to see Kevin get excited, when we get something and there's writing in chalk, yeah, he starts to shake.
Give me a name, a date, a location. This looks like a lot of arithmetic. So I guess he's figuring out his expenses or how much he had to pay the apprentices or journeymen that were there, but I don't see any names or dates.
As you see, what we look for when we dissect a piece of furniture is consistency. If the whole piece was made by the same guy, it's going to be consistent of his technique. So this chamfer has to be consistent from one drawer, second, third, fourth, all the way down. Same thicknesses, same dovetails, and that's how one of the ways that you start to figure out that the piece was original. Inside the drawers, there was never any reason to finish it. There was no reason to sand it. There was no reason to shellac it, varnish, or anything. So what we see on the inside is absolutely unadulterated wood, just like the log. So if you come over after we're done, and you feel in here, it's going to feel just like that log. Because there was no reason to go through all the effort. Nobody was going to see it. And it has great feel to it, because it's soft now. Of all the linens and papers and fingers, you can actually see how the color of the wood changes where people touched it, as compared to the bottom edge here where your hands don't get in as much.
And I guess if you just hold that for 1 second. One thing for authenticity too is you want to make sure that your 18th century desk, the drawer fronts are solid. And someone didn't kind of spruce it up by adding a figured maple drawer front. So you'll actually be able to see the lines of the curl go right from the front across the thumb molding all the way through to the back. So those curls go the full depth of the wood. If you had a very highly figured maple drawer front, but the inside didn't show any curl or was a straight piece of maple, you may want to start to look for a seam where that drawer facade could have been added or enhanced, just to make sure that it's authentic and genuine.
So what we're going to do is we're going to actually turn the desk upside down. So you can see the bottom of the feet. We're not going to hold it too long. So look quickly.
And then you'll be able to see this kind of inner line here under the feet, and that's the bottom of the side board coming all the way through. and that's supporting the weight of the desk. So what you see is the bracket feet really becomes a facade and more decorative than it is functional. And that's just an interesting, really practical piece of construction that we don't see in the more urban settings, but that we do see out in the country.
These are called louvers. These slides, which you pull out to hold the lid, is called a louver. And if you don't put them out, the lid will fall down, break the hinges, and then you got a problem. Well, on this secretary desk that we were looking at, it didn't have louvers. It had just brass sort of fittings that hold the lid. And we told them it can't be an antique because those were invented after the desk should have been made if it was an antique. So that threw the whole desk out the window as an antique. That one, we didn't have to look any further.